Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner. Bonjour tout le monde. We're not going to be speaking in French in this episode, but we are going to have a lady with a lovely French accent with us today, Nathalie Doremio.
Yeah.
Close enough. And Nathalie helps businesses and business owners turn their content, podcasts, articles, and whatever they're already creating into qualified leads without more content, ads, or burnout. She works with two businesses, the Membership Lab and Podcast Lead Flow. And I think for all of us who are running businesses and are generating a whole bunch of content, that's cash money sitting on the table if you're not using it. So we're going to talk with Nathalie a little bit in terms of how her process works and how you can use the content that you've already created now, last week, 10 years ago, that can be brought into good lead flows to drive more business. Now, I just want to mention that Nathalie has done a Master's of Persuasion and has a Master's in Computer Science. So we're talking to somebody who really knows their stuff. And sorry for those of you who are sales bros, because there's going to be no sales bro talk today, unfortunately. So Nathalie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicholas.
All right. There are two things I want to talk about. Well, a couple of things I want to talk about today. You create membership platforms through your membership lab. There are lots of membership platforms out there. Why should somebody choose your one? What's so special about yours, and why have over 300 people chosen to have one made by you?
Yeah. So the story is actually quite simple. The first one we got were through networking and relationships. So when you connect with people and they end up working with someone, somebody that has, a big business. And when that person says, do you know someone who can? I say, yes, I can. So that's how we got into big circles right away when we started our business. And then from there, very strategically putting our link in the footer and just people click and say, hey, I am in this membership. I see your link. I'm clicking. I love it. Can you do something like this for me? So that is kind of the idea. Now, why people come and recommend is because, one, what we do is bespoke. So strongly believe that people stay in a membership when they get results. It's not about the content. It's not about the people. Like some other people say, let's be honest, if they don't get results, they will leave. So then it becomes a matter of, should I choose the cheapest platform and just put my videos there and tell people to do it? Or should I try to create an experience inside and support them in a way that's scalable for me, but where they still feel seen? Right? So we help people. You said my background is in software engineering. I've been in the biotech for 10 years, in the US before we started this business with my husband. So I know about the tech, but the tech is just the tool. It's the experience you create inside. And that's why people come to us.
And I suppose the problem is that people struggle with that content and, creating a compelling offer because as I mentioned, there are a whole bunch of websites where you can create memberships. But if you've got a trash offering or you've got nothing to put in there, you're going to be, if you pardon my French, farting in the wind.
Yeah.
What type of businesses get best value out of you? Is this people who run one course, 20 courses? Is it enterprise? Maybe tell us a little bit about the platform.
So it's actually not even like we have clients that are just getting started, and then we are in teams of people that make 7-figure a month, and we are in that team. So it's really not about a question of how much money they are making. And you kind of touched on this. It's on the clarity of what they offer. Remembering that even a membership it's not a membership that you sell. You sell a solution to a problem. So you first need to identify what problem you're trying to solve, who you solve it for. Are you actually excited about helping these people? And do you have the expertise? Because when you have all this together, then yes, you get excited, you find your message, you keep experimenting, and you eventually, succeed. If you do it because you see others do it, you're like, you see one, but you're like, I can do better, so I'm going to do that. The minute you hit a road bump, you're going to procrastinate and you're going to like, well, this is not for me, this is not working. And then That's where you see shiny object. When you're excited and you know that what you do aligns with your vision, everything else, is second, right? Is that help me to get to my goals? I'll listen to it. I'll try it. If it's not, forget it.
I've seen with a lot of companies in the software space, they have the software and they have the SaaS, the software as a service. But as you grow, you have to do more training and you have to do more consulting, etc., to customers, because you've worked through it so often and you can see the mistakes they're going to be making. Do you just give them the platform, or do you help them with the actual strategy behind making this into a functional working business?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So actually, I didn't mention this, but we don't sell SaaS.
Okay.
We still use WordPress. Some people might say, "Oh, WordPress, you're still using that."
Quelle horreur.
The reality is, if you want to create a customized experience, there is no other tool. Every other tool SaaS out there, you have to fit in their box, right? Here, we are about what experience do you want to create? Let's build it on WordPress. And my ideal client, doesn't care if it's WordPress or not. It cares about having the experience, right? Some people don't even barely know it's WordPress, right? So that's what we use. And that's why it's not a SaaS. Why we chose WordPress? Because it's established. It allows us to create, plugins and things like that. And it allows us to create that custom experience without charging a fortune and taking a lot of time, right? So that's
on the software side. So software, relatively simple. I mean, obviously you need to be a technical specialist to make WordPress work properly for you.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, if people come to you and say, hey, as you mentioned a bit earlier, I've got this idea, I'd like to do coaching. I know my content is good and it is going to really help people. What is your involvement in that? Are you, because you speak about it's personalized, what role do you and your company play in the personalization? And as the companies are getting as you mentioned, 7 figures, how do you help them? Do you get involved in helping them scale as well?
Okay. So people hire us for different reasons. Some people hire us when they have an idea. And as you said, we don't even talk about tech. Very often they'll be tempted to say, so what are we going to use? And I was like, well, let's not talk about that. Have you validated your offer? So I used to say yes to every project. Like, can you build my membership? And then I would see that they would never launch. So we don't do that anymore. Now I'm like, get a validation of your idea. And it's basically very, very simple. It's like, get a list of people that are raising their hand and are saying, I'm interested. You're not asking them for money. You're not telling them exactly what's inside, when it's coming out. Just see if you can get a list of people to raise their hand for free and say, I like you and I'd love to hear more, how you develop this thing. Because if you're not able to do that, you're not ready to have a platform built. You're going to waste your money here. And this is hard for some people to do, but it is required, because how do you expect people to pay later if you can't get them to raise their hand for free?
Do you know how difficult that is? And I'm quite a seasoned entrepreneur and business person. And I had a mentorship call today with one of my first employee I ever hired. And she's running her own business and she got in touch with me again because she wanted some mentorship. And I mentioned I did a podcast and she said, what? Oh, you do a podcast? Oh, send me the link. And there was a buzzing sound in my head where I thought, how haven't I told my own network that I have the podcast and that people that would actually want to listen are not listening? I was so frustrated with myself. Yeah, that validation, just do it. Anyone listening, if you've got a network, like with all insurance salesmen, you start with friends and family first, and then you move outward. So just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you find yourself that you still haven't done it in 3 months, either get help or maybe question the idea of, do you really want it? Do you like the idea of having it, but are you going to enjoy the journey? Because if you can't do the first step, the rest is, likely not going to work as expected.
Yeah. Now I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is going to be on your podcast's lead flow. Now, I'm a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I make a huge fortune for, interviewing people like you and running this. How do you help other podcasters monetize and get value out of the content that they've created out there? So because I think there are 5 million podcasters or something like that out there. So there are a lot. There's a big audience, and I think maybe 5% of them make any money.
Yeah, exactly. So
if that.
This is actually this is a conversation that I'm having with people where I'm realized that they don't know what they don't know, and there is a gap that we didn't see originally. So what I mean by that is that, yes, you have tons of podcasters. In these podcasters, you have some people that podcast because it's a body of work. They do it because they have a message, or it's entertainment, a hobby, fine. Then you have the people that want to make money, right? And in the people that want to make money, they are the people that want to advertise. So they are looking for downloads. There is nothing wrong with that. But then there are people where the podcast is not the business. The podcast is just an asset in the business as a way to get leads and clients. And to these people, I'm saying, if you are not getting results with your existing podcast, it is time to rethink what you're sharing on your podcast. Because probably what you're sharing and the message that you're giving people is not what they need to hear to just get to the next step. So when I say this, there are people, and because I've also talked to agencies, there are people that say, yeah, but people do a podcast because they want to interview, they want to share their stories and things like that. I have nothing against that. But if you want to use the podcast as an asset to get leads, then you also need to have what I call the asset episodes. Those are strategic episodes that are built with the goal of being lead gen, just like when you create a lead magnet. Okay? So that means that you reverse engineer. What do you want people to do? Do you want people to sign up to something, to reply to an email, to, in the case of podcast lead flow, to get a unique personalized advice on how to implement something, right? So you reverse engineer that. And then in your episode, you don't have 5 call to actions. You don't ask them to do a review and follow them on Spotify and then on Instagram and all of that, right? You have 1 call to action, which is for them to fill out the form, to get the customized stuff, to get to the tool that is going to help them implement, right? You mentioned this in the middle, you mentioned this in the end. So you create that episode with the intent that it's not going to be an episode that goes live and then you're on to the next one. No, this one is getting repurposed on a platform where you control the next step, right? And you use it like you use a lead magnet, and you can use it for 2, 3 months, 6 months, as long as it converts, right? And I think that's where people don't get it. They're like, yeah. But when you listen to the episode, they'll still say, leave me a review or something like that. When you do this, you're growing Apple and Spotify's audience, not yours. There is nothing wrong with that, but have 4 or 5 episodes where people can learn what you are about, what you stand for. This is really important. That's what builds trust. How you help people, what problem you're solving for people, and how you do it, and show them that it is possible for them. So show them real examples so they can see that's exactly where I'm at. That's how I feel, right? So that's kind of my battle right now of understanding that if you have a great episode right now that speaks to your framework, your way of working, and you know that some people that have signed up to work with you are saying, I listened to that episode, and I really enjoyed it. It resonates. Great. But chances are the call to action is not going to be just one call to action, and it's not going to be the one that converts the best. So I have clients that actually, they take these episodes and they re-record them, just the end. Actually, she re-recorded everything, but you could at least record the end to have a different call to action. Just like when you have a freebie, a lead magnet, right? You have a landing page and you ask them to do one thing, fill out the form. You don't tell them, and follow me here, follow me there, right? There is only one thing they can do, right? That's the same idea. Like we have an opportunity with podcasts because people can hear your voice, and now with video, they can even see you. They can feel how committed you are, how much you believe in what you're saying, and that accelerates trust. So it's an amazing medium to connect with people and start these conversations. And I think it's underused for lead gen.
Absolutely. The one key point that stands out there for me is the single call to action. It's amazing how, if you had to show somebody their podcast visually and show it like an advert, it would look probably like a Carrefour advertisement with hundreds of things, and then you don't know what to decide. So just with a single clear offering, people try and get too many things across in one episode, or get people to do too many things. So I think that's a very valuable insight that you've given there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I've also there's again that saying where the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same thing. You spoke about downloads versus niche audiences. Let's maybe talk about vanity metrics. And, if somebody is getting 50 consistent downloads a week, for example, versus, thousands and thousands. I suppose obviously people want as many downloads as possible and to reach as many people as possible, but it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get sales, the fewer people is probably the better, or fewer better quality listeners, versus if you're trying to get a message out there, obviously, mass market is the way to go. Maybe just talk about or give some insight in terms of what you've seen in terms of download numbers, because that gets podcasters and clients a bit upset sometimes when they see so few downloads or so many downloads.
So, the downloads is something I know it's like, the reason everybody talks about downloads is because that's pretty much the only thing we can see. Okay? Let's be real. Okay. The problem is that downloads are not actual downloads. If somebody registers to your podcast, every time you have an episode that goes out, it counts as a download, even if they don't watch it. So that's not a real download. Okay, so let's get this clear. So when you see a number, I think they say it's probably only 30% of actually people that have listened to some. I don't even know how much. So that's the metric that people use for advertisement, because I guess that's the one that's out there and that you can find, with some tools and things like that. But again, it's about what do you want from your podcast? If you're working one-on-one with people, for example, and you sell through calls, right? Sales calls. Do you want 200 calls in your calendar next week? No, you don't. You don't want a lot, but you want quality over quantity, right? So I'll give you an example. That I have these clients who use podcast lead flow. She has a coaching program, group coaching program. She's in the US, and a program is $7,500 group coaching. Okay. She took one of the episodes. I think it was episode number 10. She's at over 100 now. She re-recorded it and changed the middle to say there is a tool for you to help you find your biggest assumption. That's what she helps people with. She's a leadership coach. And then she mentioned it at the end and she put it on a page. And then she went to speak on stage and she shared a
QR code.
Thank you. A QR code. I'm just making it square. Please help me, Nicholas.
Not a heart.
So, yeah, or a heart. Yeah. So QR code, right? So bottom line, someone got it that was already on her list, filled out the form. We haven't talked about what podcast lead flow is, but filled out the form, which asks for some context, like where are you at? What have you tried? What are you afraid of if what you think will happen will actually happen? Things like that. And she got someone who had been on her list for a while to book a call and buy. And she said, you know what? It's not even about the fact that she got that piece of value. It's the fact that it allowed me to have another asset I can use to start a conversation with her. And then she made the work during the sales call to sell the stuff, right? Podcast Lead Flow did not sell, but Podcast Lead Flow helped her connect with somebody that was looking for what she's offering.
Now, I always try and shoehorn this into an episode, and it's about the customer journey and how important understanding the customer journey
Yes.
is. And obviously, lead flow is all about customer journey and finding the person at the right point. And a podcast has, a couple of ways that it can help people move through the customer journey, from awareness to consideration. No, let me see if this person is talking the language that I like. And then the podcast is not necessarily going to drive the sale, but as you said, it is going to be in that consideration phase, or it could be that final, okay, I'm going to make the decision now. I've listened to enough episodes.
Exactly. And it's also remembering that people are going to listen more than one of your episodes, likely, right? We know that people have to consume, quite a bit of your content on average, before they're going to make a decision, right? But the key is to have these episodes that are ready when they are ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ready to catch them when they are ready to say, okay, but how do I apply this? How does it apply to me, right? So I think that that's the key. That's where podcasts can really allow us to make that connection, that human connection.
And I think that example of you mentioning her just changing the one call to action of an existing episode, that's a great thing about the podcast. On YouTube, you can't do it, unfortunately, but on all of the other channels, I think you can just re-upload that episode with that slight adjustment. I could talk to you all day because this is very exciting and I'd like to squeeze you for more information, but I think we should leave that for another session and go through maybe how the lead flow works and
sure.
some other successes. But I think we've got hopefully we've piqued people's interest in terms of what you're doing. And I'm hoping podcasters out there who want to get value out of their podcast get in touch with you, and folks who are looking at taking their membership platforms to another level should get in touch with you. Where can I send people, Nathalie?
So people can go to podcastleadflow.com/Nicolas. And there will be a tool there, which will be a podcast lead flow, because I use podcast lead flow for my guest appearances.
Fantastic.
As well, right?
Good.
So, yeah. So,
Good.
So if you wanted me to share quickly how podcast lead flow, and we also have article lead flow. So basically the idea is the same, is how do you use content that you've created that has value that people could implement, act on. And basically what podcast lead flow does is that it takes that content and it is going to create a form for people to fill out. But it's not going to ask them just their name and their email and send them a guide and everybody gets the same thing. Every person that fills out the form is going to get something unique based on where they're at. So podcast lead flow is really smart. It analyzes the episode or the article. It is going to come up with 3 questions that is going to give context from the listener. And when the listener gives that context and fill out the form, they're going to receive an email that is unique to them, where they're going to feel seen. When we're starting a conversation, because you can be CC'd to the email if you want to as the owner. So you can that's exactly how Alicia did it. She was CC'd on the email. She replied, she said, what did you think? And then she added to it, of course, because she could do that because she's got a whole brain, not just that episode to support her. So that's the idea. We're using AI to connect with humans and personalize content, right? So we're creating unique personalized lead magnet per listener. And AI is what allows us to quickly come up with the questions and the emails that get sent. But it's all from your content, whether it's from a podcast or an article. And of course, you can go back, add questions, change the questions and things like that. But the idea is that it happens in less than a minute. You just click and then it just creates the whole thing. And they can be added to your CRM. That means they actually follow your lead funnel, whatever you have set up already. So that's the idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested, so I should probably get in touch with you. So I'm sure other folks who've listened as well are going to be interested as well. So that is membershiplab.com.
Themembershiplab.com.
Themembershiplab.com /Nicolas. That is our one call to action for this episode.
Sure.
So go and fill that out. And Nathalie, it's been such a treat speaking to you. Thank you so much. A really interesting process. And this is really just to show people that there are solutions out there that are specific to you, that are going to help solve a problem that you currently have. So yeah, that's the point of this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nathalie.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicholas.
If you have a startup or business, but want to really turn it into a brand, why not get in touch with me directly to get a couple of tips and tricks, or to get you started on the right path? You can do this at wunderbrand.com.